My thing. Okay, there we go. Open that. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From the Fourth Line. My name's Emma, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Marcie. I
Hello.
forgot to say we're presented by Offside. It's okay, though. I'm sick. I'm running on delirium and fumes, and yeah. I'm sick for the second time this semester, and it sucks, especially during finals.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
like
what you need.
it's like the last thing I need right now. Cause like I got my flu shot and my COVID booster over the weekend, and so when I started feeling like crap, I thought that's what it was,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
And
that
then
makes sense.
right, like because it was like it started with like chills, and
Mm,
then right, so I was like, oh, like I started like running a fever, and then it was chills, and then I felt like sore, and so I was like, oh, it's like because I got my flu shot and my COVID booster at the same time. After the way I got sick earlier, like in
yeah.
November, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get the flu shot too. And it was like after I did that, and then no, I'm sick again. So like if like Thursday's show I end up sounding like crap, you know why.
Mm. It's not from the Fourth Line podcast episode if one of us isn't on our deathbed.
Literally. So
It's your turn this time.
yeah, now I'm gonna be like sniffling my way through an entire episode again.
Oh.
It sucks so much. At least my voice hasn't gone yet, but I'm like really afraid that it
Mm.
will between like today and like then Wednesday on the radio, and then on like I feel like come
Oh.
like Thursday I'll have nothing. So we'll see how it goes. At least because it's finals, like I'm not doing much talking besides like the podcast and like the radio show though.
Yeah, you got that at least.
Yeah, but as if like I couldn't feel any more than crap. The Leafs lose 2 in a row, and let's talk about it.
Mm.
Like I felt like these games are just kind of the same.
Yeah. Mm.
And I'm saying this as someone who fully didn't watch the game. Like, I didn't watch the full game against Washington. I was at the CTC, watching the Ottawa Charge lose to the Montreal Victoire. But it does mean that I got to see Marie-Philippe Poulin score a goal in person. And oh my God, was that
Oh.
like suddenly I was like 10 years old again, watching like in my like elementary school gym, watching her score, like watching her in the Olympics for Team Canada in Sochi, because they like pulled us out of class and we all sat in the school gym for that gold. I think it was this. It's either the semifinal game or the gold medal game. I think it was the gold medal game. But like suddenly I was like 11 again. Like not 11, I was probably 10, but like suddenly I was like, like 10 again
Small
watching her do
time.
that. Yeah. So that was like really cool for sure. I literally like during warm-ups and stuff, I was standing there like zooming in, like taking like 7 pictures of
Like,
her being like, oh my God, it's Marie-Philippe Poulin. Like it's Captain Clutch, like all of those things. So that was like really cool, for sure. But yeah, no, Toronto lost to Washington on Friday, 3-1. Anthony Stollerts was in net against Logan Thompson. Um, this was not the game where Max Pacioretty. Um, was it the game where he returned to the lineup? No, it was not.
no, that
That
was.
was against Pittsburgh. You can tell how delirious I am because I do not know what day it is anymore.
Oh.
But yeah, what do I have for this one? Except, yeah, what do I have for this one except, unlucky bounces? I think like that's kind of the theme
Yeah.
for both of these games. Is there's just some unlucky bounces, which like is fine,
Mm.
whatever. Like that stuff sort of happens to a team, but like the lack of offense is concerning.
Yeah. It was.
Like, Toronto's only goal came in the first period thanks to John Tavares off of what I could only describe as the, like, I thought that as the coolest pass I've ever seen come from Chris Tanev.
Mm.
But other than that, like, Toronto just like wasn't able to like get anything going really. And some of that was due to the fact that it was like a parade to the penalty box a little bit, which not even. I'm sorry, I'm looking at these now. Not even. But like Oliver Ekman-Larsson has 2 penalties here, which like I know we talked about this last episode where he needs to like remember that he plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs and not for the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Because like some of the I know like Craig Berube was like yelling at the refs a little bit about some of the penalties there. Um and like I mean, I feel like it's been an ongoing trend though the past couple of games. But
Mm.
there was, maybe a couple of questionable calls, but like also at the end of the day is like I think the Leafs really right now are feeling the impact of missing Jake McCabe, which is proving how valuable his extension is, especially if you have Chris Tanev signed long term. It's just they're so effective together as a shutdown pair and are like statistically, I think one of, if not the best defensive pair, like in their defensive capabilities in the league right now. And like missing him is a huge impact to not just the Leafs like 5-on-5, but also I think as well just like on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
Because he plays so many minutes there, right? And it struggles, it struggles without him in the lineup for sure. And so you hope he comes back soon, please. I can't keep doing this.
It's painful.
It is. And like this is no offense to Philippe Myers. Not at all. But like
It's not Jake McCabe.
he's not Jake McCabe. He's not playing with Morgan Riley. Like Jake McCabe doesn't play with Morgan Riley, but like you have like then your entire deep decor like shuffled up because you have OEL playing with Chris Tanev. And which maybe probably leads to OEL taking more penalties when he has to like when he's forced to fulfill that like shutdown role that you tend to have to do when you play with Chris Tanev, because that's when he's deployed in a game, is in those like shutdown minutes where like you need a guy to stand there and shut down the other team offensively and to block shots and stuff. And so then if you're there, and then so putting OEL in that role, and I'm not saying that he's bad at it, I'm just saying that like he's playing like he's on Florida when he's in that position and that he is taking more penalties. And I know I'm going to say this is all like, and what I have to say though in this whole thing is like the team is playing in the way that I hope they play come April. When the playoffs roll around and the refs put the whistles away, this is like what we've been wanting from the Leafs, is this style play that we're seeing now in December. And it's a huge thing. Like, okay, yeah, you're taking a lot of penalties right now, but here's the hopes that method of playing becomes your standard so that come the playoffs at the end of April, you're already used to playing like that. Because that has been by far our biggest complaint with the Leafs in the playoffs on this show, is that as under Sheldon Keefe is they would play one way in the regular season, and then as soon as the regular season's over in April in the playoffs, they switch to playing a different way that doesn't match how they were playing in the regular season and is different, and it just doesn't work for them. So hopefully,
Please.
please, like I need, and I think also some of this is like Spencer Carberry is a hell of a coach. I need to put that on the record here on the show, is that Spencer Carberry is a hell of a coach. And talk about the Leafs in the playoffs, he ran that power play in 2023 Like, it was a goddamn army. And it was so good to the point that we were spoiled as
Yeah.
Leaf fans with that power play. And then, you know, in the playoffs, and that's partly why the Leafs succeeded so much in that playoffs, is because they were so good on the power play, right?
Yeah.
Even in the playoffs too. It's like they get on the power play and it was like, okay, here's the 45 seconds to set up the cycle and score a goal.
Yeah.
And that's all mostly due to Spencer Carberry, and he's doing a great job in Washington. That team is unfortunately also as well. Washington is a good team right now, which, like, good for them. I mean, on paper, I think they're exceeding people's expectations of what, like, people saw them as on paper, but also, like, some of that is due to, like, Spencer Carberry. Again, hell of a coach. He's my vote for Jack Adams. Like, if we voted for Jack Adams and started December, he'd be my vote for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just, like, what he's done is an incredible, like, what he's done with this team. You know, and people could be like, well, any team with Ovi is going to have success. I'm like, well, they're without Ovi right now.
Mm.
And they're still playing really well. So,
Yeah.
like, I just think, like, there's, like, Pierre-Luc Dubois has been able to, like, bounce back really well and is having a pretty decent season. Like, I haven't really looked at his numbers, and I feel like I should. It's just, like, what I see is that he's playing well, so I'm going to assume that he still is. You know what I mean?
Mm.
He did have a point against in this game against Toronto. He had an assist on one of the goals, but, like, yeah, in 27 games, he's at 4 goals, 15 assists for 19 points, and he's at a +5, which, like,
Good for him.
yeah, seems like a good season for him. Yes.
Mm.
I'm, like, looking at this right now, trying to make sure that I'm not, like, but yeah, no, this does look like a good season for him so far. So I am, like, yeah, just good on you, Spencer Carberry. That's all I have to say is, like, maybe I just really miss Spencer Carberry running our power play.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Um, I don't have, like, anything else to say about this game. I don't know. Like, Stolarz played well. I mean, I think when you get some of the bounces that you do, bad luck sort of happens, but
Yeah. Yeah, so I've only been able to watch, like, the highlights from Friday's game because
yeah, me too.
I had my friend round. So I can't say too much, but yeah, it looked like a
We'll
game
talk
that
about, yeah.
had I
I guess we'll
watched it, I
talk.
would have been in pain.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's just, like, there seemed to be a couple of really good chances for Toronto, and it just puck didn't bounce their way, which seems to be the trend as of late, for sure. But we can move into talking about Saturday's game, which I feel like you can talk to these games, like, despite not just because they were back-to-back, but, like, you can talk about these two games en masse, like, as a whole, for sure. But that's Toronto at Pittsburgh for Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. Joseph Woll gets the start versus Tristan Yari. Pacioretty is back in the lineup, and that means that Nikita Grabenkin is out of the lineup, which, sure, all right. I guess we're doing that now.
No, because when I got the notification for that, it was one of those moments where I just sat. I just sat and I said, "Why?" Like,
It's a
I
thing
get,
too where it's like, why are you keeping Ryan Reeves in the lineup but taking out Nikita Grabenkin? Where
well,
essentially
who
Nikita
you want to
Grabenkin
lose,
does what Ryan Reeves does,
but
but,
better.
like, faster,
Yeah.
can skate faster, and, like, I can't think of a single player on the Pittsburgh Penguins who like would be in Ryan, like if you did want Ryan Reeves there to fight a guy, there's no one on that team in Pittsburgh who's like in his weight class. So no one would want to fight him.
Like,
So why are you taking him? Like, why are you? That's what I just don't understand. And that's what confuses me about everything involving Ryan Reeves on the Toronto Maple Leafs is like, why? Why? Like, since the day that contract was signed, it was a why. And every day since, it's been a why. And I don't get it. And no one has explained to me the why. And maybe there's something that I'm just not seeing with Ryan Reeves. And I understand offset, like, the intangibles are a big thing. We always talk about the intangibles here, but, like, I just don't get it.
no, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, out of everyone who you could take out.
Well, especially because then you're taking out Nick Robertson and putting Alex Nylander back in, which I don't know if you've seen. I don't know how many John Mulaney comedy specials you've seen.
No,
None. So this joke will go over your head, but I feel like there's going to be like a really niche category of our list of like our listeners who are going to get what I'm about to say here. But John Mulaney, notedly famous comedian, um, has a bit that he put in one of his comedy specials where he was like, God may be gay, but he forgot to flip the final switch to actually make, like, essentially built a gay man, but, like, forgot to flip the final switch that would actually make him, like, actually gay. He has this whole bit. It's actually pretty funny. That's what, like, Alex Nylander is. Alex Nylander essentially built William Nylander. Like, Alex Nylander did build William Nylander, but, like, Alex Nylander essentially is William Nylander, but, like, you forgot to flip the final switch on Alex Nylander, in which makes all of the skills that William Nylander like possesses that makes him William Nylander. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You gave him the same tools in the toolbox, but you didn't give him the instructions on how to use the tools together.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, like, there's so many times where you watch Alex Nylander play and you're like, if you took the numbers off their jerseys, that's William Nylander. But then he does something that reminds you that he is not William Nylander.
Yeah.
And I love Alex Nylander. I love the Nylanders en masse, but I do think, and I know this is like I have to say that so we can get Randy back on the show.
Please come back.
But because Randy loves the Nylanders more than I think anyone we ever know.
Yeah. Big time.
But like there's just something about it that like I don't know. It like doesn't click at an NHL level. Right?
Yeah.
And he's been like he was like cooking it up with the Marlies like before. And maybe, maybe he just maybe like he playing with the Marlies will help him find his game back, and who knows, but like I don't know. Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on Alex Nylander. Robertson, yeah, he had a rough game against Nashville, I believe it was that I'm thinking of. Yes. Where he took that bad cross-checking penalty.
Yeah.
So you take him out of the lineup. You do a little bit of reshuffling with Pacioretty back in. Now, what I don't understand is Pacioretty on the top line with Matthews and Marner. Like, what? Like, it was one of those things where, like, I saw the lines come out, and I was like, whatever. Like, I've hit the point in the season with, like, the Leafs and their lines where I'm like, this might as well happen. And we'll talk a little bit as we preview, like, more games this week that are coming up. Like, they play tomorrow in New Jersey, and we'll talk about those lines from the practice that they had today, because I sat there and was like, whatever. You know what, like, this might as well happen?
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Sure.
Yeah, literally. But Max Pacioretty looks like Max Pacioretty in the terms of, like, he's taken a bunch of penalties again. and the Leafs penalty kill isn't very great right now. So it wasn't a great thing for them. But just more unlucky bounces on certain goals and things like that. Like that Brian Russ goal where like Crosby shoots it off the boards and it bounces right onto Brian Russ' stick and he's sitting right there and I'm like,
Ugh.
right?
Mm.
But I will say, the Marner goal was like,
Mitch. He's just... Mitch Marner, I love you.
Mitch Marner, only man in the NHL, like just scoring while falling down, scoring, you know, all right. Mitch Marner, you do you, my friend.
Whatever works.
Whatever, no, literally, whatever works, and it works for Mitch Marner.
It does.
Yeah, and I will, William Nylander power play goal, that gorgeous. William Nylander power play goal, I think, is my favorite sentence in the entire world.
Yeah. Just fills me with joy.
And he's had quite a few, like, over his career. Hold on, I'm gonna actually open Natural Stat Trick. And like actually find out this number. Because I can. And I want to.
Real.
But yeah, I just like came to Leafs what in 2016?
Yeah.
Oh, you're telling me okay, so I can't do more than that. So I guess I'll just do this season. How many he's had this season? 7. Yeah, no, he leads the Leafs this season. William Nylander leads the Leafs this season in power play goals according to Natural Stat Trick.
As he...
The next closest guy to him on that like ranking is Mitch Marner with 4.
Because of Carr.
But yeah.
Like,
but I think some of that is just like the Leafs like power play structure, which is you have William Nylander in that position where he is scoring a lot of like he just is in that spot in their power play where like that's the goal scorer. Yeah. But also as well, William Nylander.
The man can score.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm gonna sneeze. 1 sec. I need to
Absolutely. But yeah. I will say though, the one with this game, and honestly, the fact this is the worst we came away with it. In terms of like looking at this week of opponents again for the Leafs, like who they were playing and stuff, and like who was on those rosters. The fact that the only former Leaf goal we had was a Michael Bunting game winner as the last game of this week against Pittsburgh.
Insane.
It could have been worse.
So much worse.
I do remember on Monday last week, we were like a week ago, we were like, well, this could be like Tyler Bertuzzi hat trick, Rasmus Sandin 2-goal game,
TJ Brody dick trick.
Ryan O'Reilly scores like 2 goals. Luke Shen gets a couple of like we really were prophesizing the worst here with this one, and the fact that the worst that we got that came away from it all was a Michael Bunting, and it actually was like a really nice goal as well.
Oh,
Like
beautiful.
hats off to Michael Bunting on that one. It was a gorgeous goal, but like
Mm.
it was one of those things where I'm like, I wish you were on my team still because that was a gorgeous, like that was a nice goal. But
Come back.
yeah, just like one of those things where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Bunts.
I was like, when I watched it, I was like, you know, I can't even be mad.
No, that was the thing too. Because I was watching the game with Simon. We like went out for dinner, and then he came over to my apartment after, and we were watching the game. And like, I literally, he like, we watched the goal happen. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, also it's Bunts.
You can have it.
It's Michael Bunting. Like, it's a thing too, where like, when he was with the Leafs, he was one of my favorite Leafs, and like, it's hard to just like get over that. Where I'm like, oh, Michael Bunting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I will say Joseph will really like he had a first rough like 10 minutes of the game. And then he turned his night around and he had a great game. And really, and I know this is like a coping mechanism. Like this is just straight up copium when I say this, but really the game was actually a 3-2 game if you just remove the 2 Pittsburgh empty netters.
Yeah.
But like if you want to judge a goalie's performance, you do have to do that because like they didn't face those shots.
Yeah, like there was nothing he could have done to stop them.
Literally nothing because he was on the bench.
Exactly. So therefore, not proper goals, not real goals, don't exist.
To
It's
reference
fake.
more John Mulaney bits that Marcie does not understand, Joseph Wool was like, I was over on the bench. No, I'm getting a blank nod back. Again, really niche for a very specific demographic of our listeners.
It's fine. I just nod, smile, maybe give a little chuckle.
You have to watch them so then I can reference more John Mulaney bits on the show, and then you'll actually get them and then find me funny.
Is this a really, really bad time to say I don't find him that funny?
Wow. So that's it for today's episode, everyone.
I'm sorry. I've tried so hard, but I don't know. I just don't find him that funny. Like I can see the appeal, but I feel like I don't know.
All right, so then
I
no
don't
one
have the
laugh.
same humor as him.
Okay. Okay. All right. I see how it is.
I'm sorry. Please.
But yeah, no, just like
my crime.
yeah, also to say, the Leafs goaltending is like not the problem. It's one of those things where like Jay Fresh put out is like goaltending expected above average or whatever for like the past week. Like the ranking for the league and stuff. Is gold saved above average there? There we go. That's the stat. Above expected. Sorry, I gotta sneeze. Hold on.
Oh,
Or not. Maybe I will. Gold saved above expected as of December 8th. Leafs are at the top with 15.5. AKA, that's also mean like the Leafs have the best goalie tandem they've had like in my lifetime that I can remember as a fan. Like, okay, like we had like Cujo and stuff, but like we've never had 2 excellent goalies like we do with Stoltz and Wool, and it's like really refreshing, and it feels like such a luxury. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here, essentially. Especially, I think mostly probably after like what happened last season.
Yeah.
Because like this time last year, Joseph Wool literally Joseph Wool literally had a high ankle sprain like 2 days ago.
Oh my god, yeah. Happy 1 year
It literally
anniversary
was
to that.
Yeah.
Oh, I will
And you know how
never
they chose
do
to sell?
again.
You know, I think what was the cruelest part is that that was Saturday. On this, if you watch the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast of that game, they did a feature on like one of Joseph Wool's saves, essentially, and they had like guys from the Leafs. Um they had like Linus Ullmark, they had like
Mm.
Arturi like Silvas and stuff, like commenting on the save and stuff. That save is from that game where he got hurt against the Ottawa Senators. I was
It
at that game.
and twisted.
I just think that is like the absolute, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a cruel way to celebrate.
Literally, I don't like I know they planned it like so far in advance. And maybe like there is some cut footage of Joseph Wool going like, this is from the game where like you know what I mean? Where he like says some like offhanded comment about him going, well, like I got hurt, I ended up hurt this game after this save. Like
Mm.
I think it was like that same period, depending on what save on Tarasenko it was, because he had two that game that were like the
Mm.
exact same. But one of them was like literally right before he hurt himself.
Because it's like, why are you making him remember? Why are you doing that's evil? Like
It was
it's
like
so
what
twisted for us, but sitting him down and being like, oh yeah, remember this game? I know you do. You'll never forget that game. Evil.
I will say it was like Matthew, like there was like Linus Ullmark was like, "Oh, that's not luck. That's just," or like he said something where it's like, "That's not skill. That's just pure desperation." And just there was something about the tone of his voice that sounded like he was being like not like salty, maybe salty about it is the word I'm looking for, but like you know what I mean? Like if you go back and watch like the way he said like
Yeah,
that's not luck. That's just pure desperation. Like he was saying he was like as like almost as an insult, and it was like a little bit funny.
yeah, I had a giggle. Just
Um, but yeah. Um, I like to kind of sum up these two games though is like I hate using scheduled losses as like a term, but I do know that we all do it where we like go like we get the schedule whenever we get it like during the summer and we go through like the league schedule and we go and we essentially go okay that game's going to be a loss, that game's a loss, that game's a loss, right?
mm.
You know, and we go through it and we essentially point out what games our team is going to lose because Leaf fans are extremely normal in that way. Where that is something that we do before the season's even started. And I think it was like something like this where it was like you're facing Washington, and I knew like they weren't going to win both games out of this back to back.
No.
I hate saying scheduled losses because I think that's just an excuse and like whatever. But I do think that like you knew they weren't going to win both games as back to back, especially because it's a back to back with travel and things like that. But I, so I knew like once they lost against Washington, I knew they were going to be hard pressed to win against Pittsburgh
Mm.
on Saturday, unless Tristan Yari like just reverted to how he was at the beginning of the season, which is awful. And he didn't.
Mm.
He played actually a pretty good game.
Yeah.
So
We can't have shit.
no, we cannot. But moving on to, I guess, kind of like looking into the future for the Leafs. They have a game on Tuesday against Sheldon Keefe's New Jersey Devils. Um,
Yeah.
and that is we are now I that is the only game between now and our next episode. There's another game on Thursday, but we can talk about that on Thursday's show. When they play the Ducks at home. But yeah, Leafs finish off this kind of little mini road trip. I know yesterday they had a day off in New York, apparently, where they, according to Nick Robertson, he walked around and then went out for dinner with some of the guys. I'm going to assume that's the exact same group that he often goes out for dinner with.
Yeah.
um, aka all of the guys under the like the like quote unquote group of rookies. None of them are really rookies anymore, except for like Fraser Minton.
The young ones.
They, but like also it's like the young ones, but like Joseph Wool is like 3 years older than everyone.
The young ones and Joseph Wool.
It's like
It's like
you
the
know like
taking
in like
Grandad out.
you know when you have that like one friend who did a gap year in university and you hang out with them and you like constantly forget that they're like even though you guys are all like in the same year, like they're a year older than you because they took a gap year.
Yeah, that's like one of my housemates. I always forget that she's a year older. I say 6 months, but still.
But like yeah, and but then they'll like say something where it's like, "Oh, when I was like in 2020 like in 2017 when I was in grade 9 or whatever or like and you're like, "Wait a minute. You were in like grade 9 in like 2017?" Like
It's like, hang on a minute.
yeah, like that. Like that's probably exactly what it's like with like Joseph.
Oh
Like if any of these guys were actually active on TikTok, they would be doing like, "What is the Great Depression like?" with like Joseph.
no, because I know for a fact, not proven, but I don't need to prove it. I just know it's true. That Joseph Wool loves like just sitting with them as a group and going, when I was your age. He loves a good when I was your age.
When I was and then you got like I think the closest in age to him is actually Simon Benoit, who like fully is a father now.
Actual dad.
Like
Which is so wild.
yeah.
Like, I'll do that with one of my friends. She's a day younger than me. And there's nothing that brings me more joy than saying when I was your age and just repeating what I did the day before. I get such a kick out of it. Because she'll just sit there, look at me, and be like, why am I friends with you?
Well, it's because like Simon's a year older than me, so like all the time he'll be like, "Oh, like we'll be talking about something, and I'll be like, oh, like this, I just remember like it was like something I don't know, it was something like minuscule where it was like some event happened like a certain year, and I was like, oh, I remember being in like grade 6 or whatever, and he like gives me a little bit of a look, and he's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I can't believe you're dating an old man. That's a pretty like problematic age gap there. Like a whole
It's
year.
like less than 18. It's like not even 18 months.
Like retirement home's coming up. Like you've got to start thinking about these things.
I'm gonna get a text from him that's gonna say like, why is Marcy talking about putting me in a retirement home?
No reason. It's for his own
He's
good.
gonna listen to like once like finals are over and he has a chance to like catch up on podcast episodes and stuff. He's gonna be like, why is Marcy like? Because like when we were talking about him getting a haircut, I did get a text about that. So
Hi Simon.
yeah, but Leafs play on Tuesday against Sheldon Keefe's New Jersey Devils in New Jersey. Max Domi and Jake McCabe were at practice today and were partially full participants. Jake McCabe was on a fourth pair with Marshall Rafai, who I forgot we called up.
Oh yeah.
And Max Domi was taking some extra rotations on the second line with Tavares and Nylander, which is where Nyes was slotted in, and I have questions. I do not know what this means at all, because wouldn't it make the most sense to have him slot in on where you potentially might actually play him? Which, like, okay, sure, if it's with Tavares and Nylander, why are, like, you putting the Nyes in that spot? Why don't you do, like, Holmberg?
Literally, it's like I read that and I just, when you just kind of pause and I was like, I am happy, I am normal, I am sane, I am not seething, I am not confused, I know what's going on. I was
Yeah. I don't know. I just like I saw that and I was like, sure. All right. I think I probably texted you and Randy, you know when like anything might as well happen?
Yeah.
And it would literally it was because of it was like Domi was like taking some extra which like okay, yes. Second line left wing is a position that Max Domi has played this season for the Leafs. He has played with Tavares and Nylander. Like that has been a line. But like I think it's just weird that it was like he was slotting in because like Nyes was there, so it was like so then like if that's where you want Max Domi to play when he comes back, potentially on Tuesday. Also, by the way, I should throw out Max Domi is a maybe for Tuesday. We will see. Um, if that's where you want Max Domi to play, so then are you then slotting Nyes up with Marner and Matthews, because that I think makes the most sense logistically, right? Am I
Yeah.
crazy for that? And then Max Pacioretty, like, so then are you slotting him then down to your third line with Minton and maybe Holmberg, maybe Alex Nylander, maybe Nick Robertson? Which, if you are, I mean, well,
Mm.
there's some moves that have to
Like,
take place, definitely, I think, in terms of roster and cap space
mm.
when Domi comes back because Pacioretty is coming off of LTIR. I've been ignoring Puckpedia because it's none of my business. I do know we're in like negative, like LTIR cap isn't real money space right now.
It's fine. They're getting the true student experience of having negative money.
Yeah, they have like
Like,
negative 4.3 cap space, and like some of that is still like Cal Yardcroak and like David Camp, who like I don't know what's up with David Camp. Convinced he might be like at this point.
yeah, like where in the world is David Kent?
But
We
like
need a graphic.
yeah, I need to like make another one of the graphics that I made for Austin Matthews when he like no one knew where he was. It turns out he was in Germany.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, because like, uh, all right, whatever. Like our active roster is full, so you have to like when Max Domi comes in, there has to be a corresponding roster move.
Mm.
And so like your options stay kind of limited in that aspect in the point of like the only people you can send down without waivers are Matthew Nyes, which you're not going to do, Nikita Grabankin, and Fraser Minton, which at this point, like, has been playing so well at 3C that, like, I don't know who you put in there, like, once you take him out.
Yeah, like
Especially because now they're, like, even staying on that second power play unit. So, like, you're not taking him
you did
out.
just
You're always,
my Wi-Fi just had a fit and I heard like crackles.
oh no. Well, I was just saying that, like, Minton, like, he's taking rotations on the second power play unit. So, like, you're not going to send him back down to the Marlies. Like, maybe, okay, then that's when you do, like, the Grabankin move. Or, like, is that when you test out Nylander on waivers? Because,
Mm.
like, I know when, like, the whatever, like, the three of them were all, like, called up in the span of a couple days, and then, you know, you signed Alex Nylander to that contract, then kind of the expectation is okay, you send down Grabankin and Minton first because you don't have to do that without like you can do that without them requiring waivers. And then like Nylander like is the last guy you kind of send down and put on waivers because there's this fear or this expectation that he will be claimed off waivers, especially at league minimum. But like with the way that he's been playing, and again, no offense to Alex Nylander, with the way that he's been playing, which isn't great, I feel like I have to like protect ourselves if we want to get Randy back on the show, but like, will that happen?
Mm.
Because like
Your
no one's
options are limited.
well, also as well as like Joey Anderson cleared waivers.
Mm. So it's
Lee
like,
Sledge and Joey Anderson, but like I'd argue that like if you were looking for like a depth center option, I can't remember if Joey Anderson plays center, but like if you're looking for a depth winger option, there's Joey. You know what I mean? Like I don't even think
hmm,
like Joey Anderson isn't on like that high of a contract either. So that's where I kind of put out the feelers in that aspect and things like that. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
hmm,
It's like a thing too where it was like I would like to see Gurbankin like I would see like them to not play Reeves over Gurbankin because that one I don't understand.
no. That's like, that's when things stop making sense, like, at all.
That's where I'm like I don't like it's a thing where it's like I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. And I know
Mm,
last year there was issues where Reeves got upset about his playing time, especially when he like dislocated his knee and then, like that game where he left because his knee popped out
yeah.
and then he fell down the stairs as he was leaving the game.
Yeah.
And then he like was like good to come back. And then he was like saying to the media being like, I'm good to come back. They just like haven't reactivated me from IR. And everyone's like, wait, what? And then he also in the same interview was like, yeah, sometimes my knees just like pop out. I have to wear 2 knee braces when I skate so that I can walk the next day.
It was like, okay, so
Everyone was like, that's concerning.
mm,
And it's like, and then I know like, okay, when he came back, he was playing really well, but like that doesn't like then rationalize like your ability to like play him over a guy like Nikita Gabrankin, who's like shown that he can at least like play to a similar, if not superior level than Ryan Reeves. And to the point too, where it's like they accomplish the same role in your lineup. Gabrankin just can skate faster.
yeah. Like, what do you want us to say?
I feel like I'm not a crazy person for that sentiment.
No, very much not.
But yeah, we will see come tomorrow what that is like. I'm going to assume Anthony Stollerts gets the start due to the fact that like these goalies just seem to be like alternating, which like makes it easy for predicting who the starter is when we don't know.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
And because the game is in New Jersey, and because due to Joseph Wool getting hurt right before the start of the season and kind of messing up the way that they wanted to start the goalies, blah blah blah, Dennis Hildeby getting called up, we all know we've talked about this. It does mean that Anthony Stolarz gets to make this would potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed, gets to make the start against his childhood favorite team. And like that's the sort of thing where like Craig seems to be really good at that, right?
Yeah.
And giving those starts to those guys, like to like, you know what I mean? Like he gave Wool the start against both starts against St. Louis,
Hmm.
just full St. Louis guy. Now, hopefully, I know at the start of the season, it's like, you've been like, well, why didn't he give it to them at the start of the season? If he does give those starts out, well, like, extenuating circumstances where your backup is Dennis Hildeby. And no offense to Dennis Hildeby, but like,
Yeah.
you got, right? Like, you know what I mean? You kind of want to avoid that situation.
Mm.
But, or like, it was something where it was like the schedule and we talked about it and everything. But Dennis Hildeby got the start against New Jersey. But like, extenuating circumstances where I think it was a second game of a back-to-back, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So if you, right, like you're not gonna, but yeah, oh yes, it was because they played like it was right after. Anyways, all is to say is Anthony, I think it would be really nice. I like those sort of narratives.
Hmm.
You're facing off against Sheldon Keefe.
This is one of the few times a year we get to remember that angry Sheldon Keefe meme folder.
There is an entire folder on my phone dedicated to Sheldon Keefe memes. I do believe the number one that I ever used was the angry Eminem.
Sheldon.
Which I don't know where that came from, but it became so widespread that like if he made a decision that like most fans didn't agree with, half the quote tweets on like on a tweet or something about it would be just that Eminem meme.
Yeah.
But
oh, good times.
yeah, at least have a busy December that keeps on rolling, and it doesn't really slow down for them. And then they play on Thursday against the Ducks at home, which means we get to, play against Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba. That's fun. Speaking of which, that's a perfect segue into talking about the 2 trades that happened. Look at that. I'm so good at that. In case you missed it, Jacob Trouba is now an Anaheim Duck. On Friday, the New York Rangers traded defenseman and captain Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim Ducks for Euro Viking and a conditional 4th-round pick in the 2025 draft. Which I think is absolutely crazy that the pick is conditional. But you know what? Okay, so I will say the fact that the pick is conditional is hilarious, but it's only conditional in the way of like the Ducks have like 3 4th-round picks in this upcoming draft. So it's whichever of those 3 picks is the lowest one. Is the one that will be going to New York. Hence why it's conditional. I did laugh, however, when I learned that it was a conditional pick, though, because the NHL refuses to not be a slapstick comedy.
Deeply hilarious.
Deeply hilarious, but yes. After many months of rumors, because these rumors have been ongoing since the summer, Jacob Trouba is now no longer a New York Ranger, and the New York Rangers have traded away yet another team captain.
It's like being made the captain of the New York Rangers is a death sentence.
Oh, yes. Avery has written like a 3-part series on that for Offside.
Oh. I'm gonna have to go read that after and just giggle. Have a little chuckle to myself.
But yeah, so Jacob Trouba was traded. There's been now a lot of discussion surrounding this trade because notably everyone knew that Jacob Trouba had a no trade clause, which is not the same as a no movement clause. A no trade clause means that it just only is applicable to trades, whereas a no movement clause is also applicable to movement in any form, which means waivers or like being sent down to the minors, to the AHL. I almost said Marlies there for a second. I was like, that not exactly how it works. But being sent to the AHL, it's like any sort of movement, whereas like the no trade is specifically for when it comes to trades. And it's all something that's negotiated when it comes to then negotiating for a contract for players and things like that. And usually like that difference isn't that big of a deal between no movement, no trade, but like in this case it was a big deal. So Jacob Trouba had a no trade clause in which I have to make sure this was like an actual like hold on. He had a no trade clause that everyone was talking about. Like everyone knew about this no trade clause. But he had a 15 team no trade list. Now, we don't know what teams are on that trade list. No one really knows. Would I love to just see like an unlabeled list of all the no trade lists in the league where it's like you don't have to attach the player's name to it. I just want to see like the no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm curious in that I don't need to know who has what list. I just want to see the list. You can like take out the names, just show me the list. But he had a 15 no trade list for this year and a 12-team no trade list for last year after having a full no movement clause for the first 4 years of his contract. And partially this is to do with the fact that his wife was doing her residency, her medical residency, and he wanted to like stay in New York
Hmm.
while she was doing her residency, which I think is a
Well,
fair
makes
thing
sense.
to want because people seem to forget that like like people have relationships.
Hmm.
Like I saw people like I was like I can't believe that out of all of the things that Jacob Trouba has done, we are getting mad for him. Mad like people are getting mad at him for loving his wife and supporting his wife.
I just, I don't understand.
Like that is when you say it like that, it is the craziest like it is the craziest thing.
Like, God forbid the man doesn't want to uproot his whole entire life whilst his
Mind
wife
you,
is dealing with
his wife and his
a
he has a
child,
baby. He has a kid.
a child. Let's just let that sink in. A child, a very, very tiny child.
Yes, he has a young like baby. He has a baby. Um, but yeah, so it was like it was lined up so that it was like to line up with the 4 years that it would take his wife to complete her residency. At which that point then, and I only know like I know most of what I know about like the way like doctors become doctors is through like Grey's Anatomy. But like once
Yeah.
you complete your 4 year residency, then you kind of do a couple more placements, whatever. But then like you're essentially not done with schooling as a doctor, but like there's more flexibility in like where you then can
Hmm.
go or like how you
Yeah.
can then like move hospitals,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, I will add, I find it really funny that you were like, oh yeah, I watch Grey's Anatomy. I'm glad that it's Grey's Anatomy. I watch House.
Well, I've also watched House as well, but I've seen more seasons of Grey's Anatomy
Mm.
because when COVID first started, my like entire friend group from skiing were like, what if we just all watched Grey's Anatomy because we had nothing else to do because we
Oh
couldn't
wow.
ski. And so I got through, I think at that time there was about, I think it was 19 seasons or 17 or something. It was like not as many seasons as there were now, but I think it was like whatever a number of seasons there were like at like 2020 and stuff. I had gotten through like 17, 18 seasons about a month and a half.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Um, if you could, kind of place my mental state in March and April of 2020, I think that kind of sums it up.
I think that I think that might say a bit too much. Like, oh boy. That's fine. I binged the entire like all of House instead of studying for my A levels. I'd sit I'd sit like with all my friends and they were like typing away. Like I had my work open and then like in the little corner of my screen there'd just be like my little medical malpractice show, keeping me
Your
entertained.
Sherlock Holmes adaptation.
Yeah. I think that
Um,
just it says a lot about me.
yeah. Um, I forgot that you still would have had to take A levels
Yeah.
because like our grades couldn't go down. So like in most of my classes, I had like no motivation to like actually do the work because like we it was like we hadn't really gotten through like the big wave of like tests and stuff before you start like your summative
Mm.
projects. So like most of my grades were still like high 90s because like why not? And like the only one where I like actually tried and put like effort in and stuff was like um was like math because I wanted that mark to go up because it was my worst one.
You know, we were given advanced information on the topics at a debate.
It wasn't
It was
helpful.
not.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
our marks couldn't go down after like March 11th.
Wow.
So, or like March 16th, or like whatever that like cutoff, like that last day of school was. So
Mm.
like, and that's kids is how I finished grade 11 biology with like a 95.
Oh. I mean, I didn't have to do my GCSEs. So we got like predicted grades for that. But GCSEs don't actually mean anything. Like,
Meanwhile, I could still get advanced acceptance into university based off my grade 11 grades.
damn.
My grade 11 grades that couldn't go down after like March break. So like they were all incredibly inflated.
That's insane. I was just sat like, please. Like
But
it's still
also
the results day, and I was like,
but also as well, like once I got to my first year university, I had not written like an in-person
please.
exam since um final exams of grade 10
Yeah.
because my school was non-semestered. So we would do 8 courses all the way through the year, where some people
Oh.
would do 4 and 4, and so they'd have their exams like in January. But like I didn't have exams at January grade 11 because we were non-semestered and we went all the way through.
Oh.
So like it was like walking to my first in-person exam and it was in the gym at
Oh.
at university. So it's like this big room.
Mm, that's rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
But yeah,
I got
speaking
really
more, I was gonna say we were supposed to be talking about Jacob Truma.
and now I'm talking about exams.
We're supposed to be talking about Jacob Truma getting traded to Anaheim.
Oh dear. We're nothing if not yappers.
Yeah, Jacob Truma. Um, yeah, he was traded. What I have to say on this trade though is like they pressured, like he had to waive his no trade clause in order for the trade to
Mhm.
get done. And he then said in what I could in an interview, in which I can only say is like that is the saddest I have ever seen that man look. Saddest and angriest.
Oh yeah, he would. I would not want to cross him like anywhere, but especially like the version of him in that interview because he was. Oh dear. I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, no, he was pissed off.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, and he said that there was a threat from the New York Rangers in terms of like, hey, you can either waive your no trade clause, or we can put you on waivers and you'll go to the Ducks anyways, or you'll go to whatever team claims you. At least there, it seems like he has some say in the process of where he's going, and also there's like a little bit more of like a respect there, or just in terms of like
Mm.
I can't think of the word I'm saying for the problem is like because I've been sick, like the words that I'm looking for have just not come.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of dignity, I guess, in terms of that, in terms of his departure from New York, where it's being via trade and not being claimed off waivers, especially because he's the captain as well,
Yeah.
right?
Like,
But yeah, I will say Anaheim Ducks will now have a very scary blue line that has Jacob Trouba and Radko Gudas on it. Which, all right, a little bit, because like my thoughts on Radko Gudas as captain is that like it doesn't fit with like the identity of the Anaheim Ducks
no.
in terms of like maybe that's the team that like Pat Verbeek is wanting to build is one where like Radko Gudas like fits that identity and things like that, fits that mold of the team that he's trying to build. But like right now, as it is, like that is not what the Anaheim Ducks are as a team. And so maybe adding Jacob Trouba like does that. But
Yeah. I will say the vibe of the Ducks right now is it's an interesting one. Like I'm very glad I'm not over there dealing with all that.
yeah. And then the overall discussion about this as well is and it's something that Elliot Friedman then brought up on Saturday Headlines on Hockey Night Canada and it's kind of now there's a discussion that's now emerging about like the way that players feel by the way that this went down, which I know like a lot of people be like, well, it's within the rules. Like the New York Rangers were allowed to do this. I'm like, yes, but also this is the second time in less than a year that the New York Rangers have found the loophole within the CBA of like you can put a player on waivers who maybe has a no trade clause, and if you just want to offload the contract, the team can then do that and then have the team that they want to offload the contract to. In the case of Barclay Goodrow, it was the San Jose Sharks can claim him, and that's a way to work around a no trade clause, not necessarily no movement clause, but a no trade clause. And then maybe like all it is then to kind of like make it worth it if it is purely a salary dump thing and not so much as you actually want a genuine return for this player, so you just do a trade down the road or a trade at some point in the off season, a little one where it's for future considerations.
Yeah.
Or you do the future considerations trade before and then it's actually future considerations, or it's it's past considerations. Like you claimed my player off waivers, here's a treat. Here's a young bottom 6 prospect and a pick for like a late round, like 2 years from now.
It's like considerations will be had at some point.
Whether they're now or when they're in the future or whether they're in the past, who knows? Considerations.
Eventual considerations.
Eventual considerations. But yeah, it's something too that players maybe are a little bit more concerned about, where there is a CBA that is, coming up for renewal and not at the end of this season, but at the end of next, where maybe this then becomes a topic of discussion among that, where players maybe want that no trade or that no movement clause to be streamlined into one, where it's like, okay, but if you have a no trade clause, then you cannot also like be put on waivers. You know what I mean? So instead of it being a no, like there's two, there's only one option. And this is not related to anything else. This was just Elliot Friedman then on that sharing more nuggets on this sort of thing, because it is like it's one of those things where like players and agents and everyone's talking about this behind the scenes. But there is apparently a contract that was just recently signed in the past year where it was like a player was like, okay, I'll have a I'll have a no trade or no movement clause on my contract, but like if an expansion, like in the terms of an expansion draft, and I'm left unprotected, or like I'm open to being left unprotected in the case of an expansion draft, which because if a player has a no movement clause, they have to be protected, but like the team has to use one of their like slots to protect them. Just something to keep in mind. How the Ottawa Senators lost Mark Mathot because they had to hold on to Dion Phaneuf because he had a no movement clause. So, but that is also an interesting then supplementary clause to add onto your contract though as well. It's like I have whatever, put a no movement clause, put a no trade clause on my contract, but I'm open to moving in an expansion. So, yeah, so that's another trade that we have. I will say though, is like in the media videos that I've seen Trouba in for the Ducks, that is like especially this weekend, he looks like a man who just got off of a red eye from New York to LA.
Yeah.
He looks tired, and I feel for him and I feel for his wife. in terms of the fact of like they have, you know, a young kid and now he's having to play in Anaheim and she's doing her residency in New York. And like the reason, okay, residency 4 years, she had to take off time either for to have their child or for another medical issue. And I don't want to get it wrong by saying it's which one.
Mm.
And I can't remember.
No.
It could actually have been both, to be honest. But that's why then there's this misalignment between like the 4 years, like because she started her residency when he signed his extension with New York, and then he had it so it was like 4 years, so it would line up with the end of her residency.
Yeah.
Right. And so, anyways, but then because she then had to take a year off in her residency, then they're not lined up. Anyways, but that is to explain, I think, a lot of like the off-ice personal stuff when it comes, because we do still have to remember at the end of the day, these are like human beings and not like just hockey playing robots with no feelings and no priorities outside of hockey.
It's like they have families, they have lives, they have people they care about. And I think too many people forget that.
Yeah. And then there was another trade. There was a trade today.
There was.
In which the Colorado Avalanche acquired another goalie. Mackenzie Blackwood and Giovanni Smith and a 5th round pick in the 2027 draft were traded to the Colorado Avalanche for Alexander Grigoriev, Nikolai Kovalenko, and a 5th round pick in the 2025 draft and a 2nd round pick in the 2026 draft. Which I just have to say, okay. Happy birthday, Mackenzie Blackwood.
Yeah. Happy birthday to him. I hope they like got him a little like cake and was like with the like little candles and went go on and make a wish. And like and then they're like, did you make it? And he was like, yeah. And they're like, did you wish to be traded? Because boy, have we got a surprise for you.
But like, hey yo.
We're about to make your wish come true.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, this honestly feels like a trade deadline trade but like it's weird that it's happening in like December. Like this should be happening on a Friday in March at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Not a Monday at like Monday in December at like 3:30 or like 4 o'clock or whenever this happened. Time isn't real. I don't know what time it is anymore. Final season.
You're going through it.
Yeah, but I will say like Colorado, you know, have totally flipped their goalie situation. Like the 2 goalies that they started the season with, they no longer have.
Yeah.
And they have both been traded in the span of like less than 2 weeks. So
wild.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever, like San Jose, they have Askarov, who seems basically ready, and they have Vitek Vanacek, who is fine. It's obvious what Blackwood was their starter, but like we will now see what that means for the San Jose Sharks. It's one of those things where it's like it's fine for them to do this because, and no offense to San Jose Sharks, they're bad. Like it's one of those things where it's like, I think the reason why the San Jose Sharks have kind of become like a dumping ground for other teams, or like this ability where teams can make trades for them to like do this to bolster their own lineups, in the way of like Colorado needed to fix their goaltending situation if they wanted to have a chance at the playoffs this year. It was that kind of dire need for them. Whereas like the San Jose Sharks are like, well, we've got this young goaltending prospect that like that Nashville gave us, and like he's pretty good, and like I think we'll be set then like in our future. But like right now, like our team's just either young or they're like old and bad. So like here, have our starter, we'll be fine. Because like if anything, we just get another high pick at the draft.
Yeah.
Which doesn't hurt anybody. Like there's no expectations for them. Like there's no expectations for them in terms of like how well they have to do, because like I think they're already like exceeding people's expectations of how well they would do this year, or like just other teams have been that bad. But yeah. And when it comes to Colorado, I mean, it seems like they fixed their goaltending situation. Maybe we'll see. I mean, like it's the thing where it's like you've got essentially two like, I mean, I guess Mackenzie Blackwood is like a starter. He hasn't really been. There's only been like 3 seasons where he's been like a bona fide starter. Like prior to this year. This year he has been the starter for San Jose, but like we'll see how it goes. In that aspect, because it'll be him and Scott Wedgwood. A lot of Woods over in Colorado, because then they got Miles Wood.
Yeah.
They want to trade for another Wood. There's Matthew Wood, who's a Nashville prospect, who's currently playing at the University of Minnesota. So,
you know, collect your guys.
Get a theme going. I'm all for a good theme. I love a good theme.
Oh yeah. Big.
But yeah. So there's those 2 trades. And then in another story, we're gonna continue rolling here. Because we did spend quite a while talking about the Newfoundland Growlers last season, and them folding as a team. And we talked about kind of the logistical errors logistical errors, but logistical challenges when it comes to having a hockey team on the island of Newfoundland. But it was not announced, but at least Jeff Merrick reported that the QMJHL's Vacancy Bathurst Titans are potentially it will be discussed at this week's QMJHL board meeting to move them to St. John's, which I just have to say, I would love to see how that works out logistically. Because QMJHL teams travel by bus. And the short ferry to Newfoundland is a 7-hour ferry. That ferry takes you to Corner Brook. It is still a 9-hour drive from Corner Brook to St. John's.
Yeah.
So I do not want to know what it is like to be on a 7-hour ferry, plus like the time it takes you to drive to Corner Brook from wherever you are in the queue, which imagine if you're Gatineau having to make that trip. Gatineau is just across the river from Ottawa, for those who do not know their Ontario geography, their Canadian geography. So it's like me driving all the way to Corner Brook, then getting on a 7-hour ferry, and then driving 9 hours on a bus with 25 teenage boys.
I think that would absolutely mentally destroy me.
That sounds like the worst experience of my entire life.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you could pay me to do that.
No, you could not pay me to do that. But I like, because that's the thing, is I have done that before, But that was when my family and I RV'd across Newfoundland when I was 13, and that was enough for me. That is like not the most. I would like to go back and do that trip again because it's a lovely trip and I love the province of Newfoundland and it's gorgeous, and really, really nice. Tons of great hikes. But I do not want to do that in a coach bus with 25 teenage boys. It is very different doing it with your family when you are 13 in an RV.
Yeah.
That's like at least a full day of that is like 2 days of travel, depending on where you are coming from. Because it's not just like, okay, what if, like, what if you're the team in St. John's having to, figure out those travel logistics and like, okay, well, whatever, like, we'll just fly places, we'll work that into our budget, whatever way. But it's like, you're then also asking like the rest of the teams in the league to then have to make those travel arrangements out to St. John's.
Which is like a lot.
The reason, and it's a thing too where it's like we both talked about how like we talked about on the show how we would like hockey in St. John's to thrive. It's really difficult to to have hockey like professional hockey teams or to have hockey teams in general at a high level succeed in Newfoundland because of just like the travel logistics to the mainland and off the island. And but like that's always been the biggest challenge for teams is there in Newfoundland is like those travel logistics because it's difficult.
Yeah.
Especially because you're doing that all in the winter and like winters out there are rough and winters out there are cold and it's hard and it's potentially unreliable and it's like, okay, so then keep in mind, these aren't professional hockey players where this is all they do, like it was with the Growlers and ECHL. These are like teenagers who like go to high school.
Yeah.
And so maybe, can't take off 3 days to go play one game in Newfoundland or like have to take off a full week of school for travel to go play a game in Newfoundland.
Like it's a lot. It's a lot to have to commit to.
Yeah, and these travel logistics has always been the biggest struggle for teams in Newfoundland and for teams that have existed in St. John's to try and overcome, and it's always resulted in the teams no longer existing. So we will see some more major junior hockey news updates. Easton Cowan will not be a camp participant at Canada's World Juniors roster camp. He was named to the roster, but he will not participate. He will still attend the camp. He just like I think won't be a part of any of their on ice sessions. Beckett Snecki was then added to the roster in his place, which I think Oshawa Generals fans will be happy about. He played like he went absolutely like God mode in the week since he was kept off that roster, putting up some crazy point totals. But this is all because of injury precaution. This does not impact Cowan's. I mean, this does not mean that Easton Cowan will not be able to be named to the Team Canada roster for World Juniors. In fact, I mean, I think he probably will be, just because he went to the tournament last year, and that tends to give guys an edge over other players. Yeah. Also, as well, it's just the World Juniors has always historically been a 19-year-old tournament, and Easton Cowan is 19. That's just how these things work.
Yeah.
Also, Easton Cowan is a damn good hockey player. This is just all this is all injury, like this is all just precautionary for precautionary reasons. He just came back from a lower body injury, played 2 games, and then had to leave a game against Oshawa, like their last game before break, like before he would have had to leave for the camp. He faced an open ice hit and left the game, and then therefore is now being kept, is not going to participate in the camp due to precautions, but should be good to go if he is named to the roster to play at World Juniors starting on Boxing Day. So thought I'd give that update. I think a lot of people saw that and panicked. I believe it is just so he doesn't hurt himself more.
Yeah.
But he did pass Doug Gilmour's record for the longest consecutive point streak at 56 games. However, it is unofficial according to the OHL because it was not done in one season, which I think is dumb.
So stupid. Because he's still doing it.
Yeah. And then also as well is, I don't know if you saw this, and maybe you didn't see this, but did you see the video from the 67's teddy bear toss?
No.
Did you not see that video? I thought everyone must have seen this because I was like, never have I seen this many people pay attention to the Ottawa 67s ever.
I admittedly have not been on my phone a lot.
Okay, I'll just find the clip.
Because yeah, no, the last 2 days has been full of like stress because we did a friend miss dinner yesterday, which meant trying to pack 8 people of cooking into my kitchen, which, as you know, is not very big. So,
Hey,
yeah.
I sent you a tweet, and I just need you to watch this. For those who haven't seen it, you can find it pretty easily. I think those videos, everyone's seen it. It's from the Ottawa 67's teddy bear toss that was on Sunday against Barrie Colts. And the Luca Pinelli, who was named to Team Canada's World Juniors camp roster.
Oh my god.
Scored Ottawa's first goal of the game to start the teddy bear toss. And as teddy bears are raining down onto the ice, there is a full and complete line brawl. And I do think that the best part of this all, that really adds to the aspect, besides, the teddy bears raining down, them in their special jerseys, is the fact that because it's the teddy bear toss, there's a Grinch on the ice.
That really made me laugh.
And he just looks so confused.
Just like
by the fact that there is like multiple scrums. And it's like there's not enough linesmen to contain the players who are all fighting each other.
Send the Grinch in.
But yes. I have yet to find out what set that off to cause that. I don't know if someone had. I was not at this game. I went to the 67 Teddy Bear Toss last year, but like I just also as well, if I got to that game, it would have brought about like my like 7th in-person hockey game of the week. It was also middle of finals. I just couldn't do it.
I don't.
But yeah, that is something else. That is my major junior team, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Ottawa Senators. No, that is the Ottawa 67s. It was really funny. I'll tell you a story afterwards that makes this all the more funnier. But I just thought I should show that to you and bring it to your attention. I think that is just the beautiful game, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful game.
That's what hockey is all about. Fighting while teddy bears rain down.
But yeah, and I believe that is all for today, I think.
Yeah.
We will end the show here. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back on Thursday with another episode. In the meantime, you can follow Offside News on all social platforms at Offside News Co. You can also Sorry, my brain. You can also read all their articles, including Avery's 3-part series, which I'm sure will be getting an addition to it very soon on New Jersey, not New Jersey. Oh my God, New York Rangers captains and being the scapegoats, consistently over at Offside News and many other pieces. Oh my God, ugh, I need to go lay down
Yeah.
at offsidenewsco.com. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, or if you never want to miss another episode, go follow the show over at From the Fourth Line on Twitter. That's fourth with the number 4th. Or if you really miss us between episodes and you think we're absolutely hilarious, because we are, you can go follow us over there at 60 Leaves for Marcie, at Pair V1 for myself. And I don't need to go lay down, probably chug some NyQuil and take a nap. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Thursday to discuss the Leafs. And in the meantime, go Leafs go!
Go Leafs go.